TomoNews presents Real Life Ghost Stories. Ghost photobombs girl's selfie. A teenage girl from Georgia got a tingle down her spine when she checked her photos from a recent fishing trip. According to a post by her mom on Facebook, 13-year-old Haley Ogletree was taking a selfie last week when she was photobombed by a ghost. That's him, right there. Haley and her brother Colton had gone fishing with their grandparents to celebrate the boy's birthday. According to their mom, Colton caught the biggest fish like ever, so maybe the ghost was happy for him. Seems like the photobomb phantom appeared when Colton was packing the fishing tackle box back in the truck. Haley's mom said her son didn't notice anyone standing there and there was no other people around that day, so there couldn't possibly be any other explanation for how the man appeared in the photo. Could there? The photo has been shared thousands of times online and picked up by media around the world, but it's garnered divided opinions. Looks like many of you out there straight up believe in the existence of ethereal beings, while others take a more cynical view and are sure some post-production jiggery-pokery went on with young Haley's photo. So, do you believe in ghosts? Or do you think the photo is fake? Let us know with an appearance of your own in the comment section below.
Teenagers stumble across old murder dump site. In Taiwan, a group of teenagers was driving home from a day out when they unknowingly passed the site where a murdered woman's body was dumped. One of the drivers suddenly stopped, then began wandering towards a dilapidated shack. He claimed he saw an injured woman who was crying. She told him she couldn't find her hand and that he needed to help her. He stood there in a daze, and it took all three of his friends to convince him to leave. They took him to an emergency room, worried about his mental condition. Medical staff contacted police about the boy's strange story. Police informed the teenagers that back in 1995, a man had murdered his wife and chopped up her body. The husband had boiled the wife's head in an attempt to dispose and hide the body. In the end, police were able to recover most of the wife's body, all of it except for her right hand. None of the teenagers involved in the incident had even been born when the murder occurred. Creepy? Woman believes she is possessed, seeks help, raped by exorcist. A woman in New Taipei City became convinced she was possessed by an evil spirit, so she began seeking the help of an exorcist. She was finally referred to a temple where an expert exorcist claimed that he could help her, but he told her that no matter what happened during the exorcism, she was not to move or cry out. The man placed a towel over the woman's eyes, turned out the lights, and began the exorcism. He then took her pants off and raped her. The woman, obedient and possibly terrified of the so-called ghost, did exactly as she'd been told, and she didn't move or scream throughout the rape. She then returned home and told her husband what the ghost had done to her during the exorcism. Her husband immediately called the police and reported the rape, submitting his wife's underwear for DNA testing. And sure enough, there was some very corporeal DNA left by the ghost. Maybe in court, the exorcist can claim he was also possessed during the rape. Haunted house for sale? Sold! Neighbors were surprised to learn that a long-time haunted house located in Hualien, Taiwan, was finally purchased. The ghost story goes that the house is haunted by the ghosts of 5 children who were murdered by their parents 9 years ago. The Lin family were the original owners of the home, but after falling into debt, the parents murdered their 5 children, the oldest 18 and the youngest just 8. The parents placed their 5 children in the upstairs bathroom before committing suicide. Since then, the house has only had 4 residents. One young man who rented the house claimed that the upstairs bathroom reeked of blood, and he often heard voices of children late at night. He lasted 2 weeks in the haunted house before moving out. A mother and her adult daughter also moved into the house, claiming that they didn't believe in ghosts because they were Catholic. Nevertheless, they moved out after only 2 months. The only other resident was a Taoist priest who announced that he would stay at the house for 1 month. He claimed to have cleansed the residents of negative spirits, but moved out after just 7 days. The house has been empty for over 2 years, and curiously enough, even empty of insects or small animals. Some stray dogs will sometimes take shelter in the shade of the house during the day, but none spend the night there. Local media were unable to obtain any information about just who purchased the house, but they found out it was sold at 40% of its original listed price. That's a great bargain for a haunted house. Phone company discontinues haunted phone number. Back in November 8, 2008, Miss Fang, age 14, and a group of her friends met up and went on a day trip. It was the same day Miss Fang met a man identified by his last name Xu. Xu would later lure the girl away from her friends after the trip, and convince her to return to his apartment with him. There, he murdered the middle school student in the bathroom and dumped her body. He also sold her mobile phone to a second-hand dealer, but the ringtone of his victim's phone would continually haunt him in his nightmares. Xu became too afraid to leave his house at night and eventually started sleeping with the lights on. Xu was eventually arrested by police and sentenced to prison. But the story doesn't end there. The person who bought Miss Fang's mobile phone said that it would often receive empty text messages or voice messages from an unknown caller. Eventually, the phone was taken into evidence by police, but Miss Fang's ghost seems to be haunting her old phone number. Individuals who were assigned Miss Fang's phone number would still receive the strange empty text messages from an unknown caller. Customers have complained so often about the ghostly text messages that the phone company has discontinued the number.
Top 10 haunted places in Asia. Viewer discretion is advised. Halloween is coming. Wanna get scared? A tourist website lists the top 10 haunted places in Asia. Let's go check it out. In the novel Naminoto, written by Japanese writer Seicho Matsumoto, this dark forest is the place where the main character killed herself. Because of the popularity of the novel, many people committed suicide here. What's hiding behind the trees? We don't know. This gloomy fort forbids visitors from coming in after sunset. Local people said one guy stayed in the fort overnight and never came back. The psychiatric hospital is one of the scariest places in Korea. It was shut down and abandoned 10 years ago because patients were dying one by one without any reason. It is said the temple of Samsui Island was a graveyard for children. A lot of people claim to have seen ghosts of children at night. A merchant named Liu built this mansion in 1929 during the period of Japanese occupation. Many Japanese soldiers died here. There are other haunted places listed here. Take a look if you are brave.
Ghost in the Machine murder victim appears in laptop. Back in December 7, 2003, in central Taiwan, an unidentified man bought a second-hand laptop. The man would later tell police that after he bought the computer, he began noticing strange things happening around his home. The first time he booted up the computer, a video began automatically playing and he saw a woman in a white shirt flash across the screen. The man dismissed the strange incident and reformatted the computer, but then he began having strange dreams about the woman. He would later recognize her from the news as a murder victim. He surrendered the computer to police, and the police were able to trace the computer's serial number to the victim. The 20-something-year-old victim was a woman who'd been murdered by an auto repair shop mechanic. The man had dissected her body, cannibalized a few prime cuts, and hidden the remains of her body in his repair shop. He'd then sold her laptop online. That was how her laptop ended up in the hands of this unlucky haunting victim. Father who died 2 years ago has one last I love you for his son. Joseph Torres died in March 2013 from a rare brain disease called Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. 90% of those diagnosed with the disease die within a year. Back in 2007, Joseph went on a road trip, but he remembered to write his son, then only 4 years old, everywhere he went. Most of the postcards made it home in a timely fashion, some didn't. Now, 6 years later and almost on the 2-year anniversary of his death, a postcard dated from June 10, 2007 arrived for his son Rowan. Needless to say, Rowan and his mother were shocked. The postcard read,
I love you, and I miss you so much. See you soon. Love, Daddy.
Rowan's mother said that it felt as though it was a final goodbye her husband didn't get to say.
Elderly woman gets lost in the wilderness and says an old couple kept her company. You drink water only. I drank from a brook. 2 old women out there talked and comforted me. God's blessed me. This 80-year-old woman surnamed Wu went to a leisure park in Hualien with her family on June 28th. Security camera footage shows Wu after she finished using the bathroom. She then walks away with a zoned-out look, seemingly in search of something. Wu later told medical professionals that after being lost for a while, she encountered a girl in a red dress holding a red umbrella. The girl guided her towards the brook, where Wu stayed for 4 days. Wu rested when she was tired and drank from the brook when thirsty. She also chatted with an old couple who seemed to come from nowhere during the evenings. After searching for 90 hours, police finally found the missing woman. The lane's cut out there. You either have to wade into the water or hike through the ridgeline. It's not a regular path that people would normally take. This is beyond even a young person's physical capability. The old couple told her jokes and encouraged her to stay strong. Who exactly is the red girl Wu referred to? The spirit of the mountains. Could the old couple be the god and goddess of land? No, they are spirits that have come to her rescue, answering to her family's prayers. It's possible that they were the result of her optical and auditory hallucinations. Well, no matter what really happened to Mrs. Wu, we are glad she returned home safe and sound.
Suspect fleeing from cops jumps to his death. Police in Taiwan are looking for the driver of a Mazda 3 which joined in during a police chase. Mr. Huang, age 52, was at a gas station when he spotted a police vehicle and sped off. The police gave chase, but in the midst of the chase, a Mazda 3 began tailing the police cruiser. Mr. Huang lost control of his vehicle and crashed into the side of the bridge. He can be heard to be shouting, "Why are you chasing me?" just before he leaps to his death over the side of the bridge. The police rushed to Mr. Huang's aid, but he died before the emergency crew arrived. They later found amphetamines in his car, but are now curious at the appearance of the Mazda 3. A check of the vehicle's license plate revealed it to be a stolen vehicle. Could Mr. Huang have been fleeing the driver of the Mazda 3 instead of the police? Police said they'll be investigating Mr. Huang's death and any possible gang connections he may have had. Murderer haunted by his conscience or by a ghost. Mr. Huang Wenjin's death penalty conviction was commuted to life in prison by Taiwan's High Court of Appeals. 2 years ago, Mr. Huang murdered his 24-year-old mistress by burying her alive in the mountains in central Taiwan. The victim, Ms. Chen, was very superstitious and often visited fortune tellers when she needed advice. Little did she know that the regular fortune teller she visited was actually a friend of Mr. Huang and had informed him about everything she would discuss. When Mr. Huang attempted to break up with his mistress, she went to the fortune teller and she decided she would tell his wife. When Mr. Huang learned of the news, he convinced Miss Chen to take a last drink with him. He drugged her drink and then buried her alive. Although Miss Chen was reported as a missing person by her parents, it was Mr. Huang who walked into a police station and confessed to the murder. During his confession, Mr. Huang said he had been haunted by the ghost of Miss Chen ever since her death. He was afraid to sleep. He said she was waiting for him to sleep so she could haunt him. He'd been without a good night's sleep for nearly 7 months when he confessed. Mr. Huang must have thought his victim would stop haunting him after he confessed, but she hasn't. Police and prison guards admit that Mr. Huang still can't sleep without waking up from a nightmare. Well, now that Mr. Huang's received a life sentence, he'll have plenty of long nights ahead of him. Haunted house video appears on Facebook. Is it real or fake? Last week, a ghostly video appeared on a man's Facebook feed and promptly went viral. The man claimed he was helping a friend move into a new apartment in Keelung, northern Taiwan, when they noticed things were going missing and doors were opening and closing on their own. The man pulled out his cell phone and started filming, introducing each section of the apartment as he goes through it. He initially comments that it may just be someone playing a prank on them, but then as he backs down an empty hall, a woman's giggle can be heard. The general response from Taiwan's netizens is, "Ooh, creepy," or naysayers who say it's fake and just a couple of young adults trying to get some attention. Well, a few days later, the video disappeared from the man's Facebook just as suddenly as a ghost. Is a dead Marine haunting this 4-year-old child? Parents spend a lot of time worrying about their children, and there are a lot of things you have to worry about when it comes to children. But one mother in Virginia Beach has a special worry about her 4-year-old son Andrew. She's worried that he's possessed. They even know, or at least suspect, who the ghost might be. Andrew's mother, Michelle Lucas, said her son sometimes would cry and say that he had died in a fire. Then Andrew gave her an address and said he used to live there. So Michelle Lucas has reached out to the TV show Ghost Inside My Child, and it was with their help that she figured out that Andrew was reliving the death of a U.S. Marine who had died in 1983 in a fiery explosion in Lebanon. Andrew's mother even took him to visit the gravesite of the fallen Marine, hoping it would give her son some closure.